Welcome to the Cards Hub post-game show brought to you by Hot Shots. St. Louis is home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com and by DraftKings. The crown is yours. This is Sports Hub STL. Stefan Caray, Matthew Rocchio. After a really fun night in St. Louis, the Cardinals snap a losing streak after a really tough road trip against the Mets and Braves. Start off in their first home game against a division opponent with a 3-2 victory. Matthew Liberatore was stellar. The offense did just enough. The bullpen bent but didn't break. And man, oh man, does it feel good to be back in the win column if you are a Redbird fan. Matthew, let's just get your initial thoughts on this game. It was a lot of fun to take in.
Absolutely, it was. Good to see a Cardinals win, but overall, a lot of good things here. Wilson Contreras continues with extending with his 7-game hitting streak. He gets a crucial hit there. Matthew Liberatore continues his strong string of starts. That's another great point there. I also want to say, I know it's kind of funny, but the Cardinals notched their second RBI from the DH position. Came on a sac fly, not exactly the way you want to be racking up your RBI from the DH spot, but hey, 2's better than 1 through the season. So a lot of positives to focus on for the Cardinals. In fact, here's a big one. Daniel Warden saying, I can't believe we won a one-run game. To Daniel's point, Cardinals 0-5 in one-run games coming into tonight. They're now 1-5 after tonight, and that's a big deal, I think.
That's a huge, huge deal. A couple of notes coming into today's game. Cardinals 2-11 road record is the worst start through the first 13 games since 1973 in St. Louis history. At home 8-4, that's their best start through the first 12 games since 2019. So you would assume that 9-4 would continue on that trend. Their .513 win percentage differential between home and road coming into tonight. That's tied for the 5th largest differential through the first 25 games in St. Louis history. So they haven't experienced much struggle on the road and success at home. The disparity between home and road has not affected the Cardinals quite as much as this year in recent memory. But if you're going to be good at home, you'd rather be good at home than not be good anywhere. And I think the Cardinals have proven that they really like to play at Busch Stadium, namely with the starting pitching. I want to begin with Matthew Liberatore, who just spun his 3rd consecutive quality start, his 4th in his season in 2025. He has been as close to an ace that the Cardinals have seen this year. Not taking anything away from Sonny Gray, but Matthew Liberatore is really turning some heads right now.
Yeah, I threw up his game-by-game log right down here in the corner, Stefan Caray, so that all the fans can watch it as we actually look at it so we don't get things confused here. Obviously, he had the 5 earned run blow-up in that second start, but other than that, just the consistency of these starts is really what's jumping out to me. The command that he's showing throughout these starts has been incredible. The fact that he's consistently, for the most part, getting to 90 or more pitches, that's really solid. And just the big thing there that's got to jump out, 2 walks while he's striking out hitters. What do we got right there? What is it? 24 or so for the season to 2 walks. That is an incredible, 28 strikeouts to the season to 2 walks. It was 24 coming into this game. An incredible start to the season for Matthew Liberatore. There's still some fans, Stefan, on the morning show who were saying, hey, Liberatore should still be a guy who you use out of the bullpen. But, man, there's no doubt about it. That lefty with the deep base is fighting like hell to become a starter in Major League Baseball, and there's no reason to look back now. He's absolutely killing it.
Yeah, and I think he's pretty much made his case. You've seen the sample size. You've seen the flashes of brilliance. And right now he's riding a wave of momentum that isn't going to be slowed down very easily. It's just evident that when you look at these young players, these young prospects, that we give up on them a little too early. Sometimes it takes a few seasons to really figure it out. And what the Cardinals have now unlocked is a really talented left-handed starting pitcher. And that could be a fixture in their starting rotation for years to come. I know everybody that enjoys the birds on the bat will really like to see a talented left-handed pitcher. Think about all the successful lefties that have come across through Major League Baseball. Clayton Kershaw, the first really notable one that comes to mind here when I think of lefties that can carry a rotation. Maybe Liberatore can have that sort of legacy here in St. Louis. You just never know. But it was good to see the Cardinals getting a win. The downside is they only scored 3 runs. This is their first one-run victory of the season, like you mentioned, their first win scoring 3 or less runs since April 11th. We've talked about it on the show. They need to get to 5 or 6 runs in order to feel really comfortable. Tonight, the bullpen did a really nice job.
Yeah, it did. But I think we do need to focus on what the bullpen was. And anytime it is Kyle Leahy, or as Sports Hub STL's Brendan Schaefer has now collectively calls him every day, Kyle Leahy, Phil Maton, Ryan Helsley. It's a lot easier to feel good about the bullpen when you only have to see the only three bullpen pitchers that you're actually confident in. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the Cardinals win a one-run game where anybody else has to pitch other than those three out of the bullpen, whether it is the new guy in Riley O'Brien. I know Samuel Howe, who likes to join us in the morning, always love his comments. He was saying here, let me check the transaction. Well, what do you know? It only took a week. Riley O'Brien up for Ryan Fernandez. That was earlier today. So like you said, still not great to see the offense only give you three, just like it was only good to see you give them one the other night. Things were still close, but you legged out the W. These are the kind of games you're going to have to win, obviously. And so I know the offense collectively didn't do a lot, and 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position isn't great. I did, though, like seeing the fact that so many pieces across the offense did chip in. Obviously, when you only get that many hits, you need to tag them together, but the offense is improving in ways. Willson Contreras, like I mentioned earlier, a 7-game hitting streak. I don't have tonight's 1 for 4 effort factored into these numbers, but Willson Contreras in the first 11 games of the season was batting .043 with a .310 OPS. In the 13 games since those first 11, he's batting .288 with a .793 OPS. And like I said, he extended that hitting streak he gave. So again, there's not a ton of huge positives to take away, but there's a lot of little things from this game that you can kind of focus on that, these things are riding the ship. Things are getting better that held the Cardinals back over the first month of the season.
Right. And the starting pitching is an example of that, how well they have pitched over the last few weeks. The offense started hot. They have cooled down a little bit. Yep, Libby is looking good. That's a very good comment and a very good point that is well taken. But it's putting it all together, and I think the Cardinals will continue to do that over time. But getting that big win, getting back on track before you head back out on the road after this 3-game series against the Brewers is incredibly important. Now, you get a win with Liberatore on the mound. You chase Chad Patrick out of the game after 4 1/3. My experience with Chad has been nothing but fantastic. He was with me in Amarillo a few seasons ago, and I wish nothing but the best for him. But it was great to see the Cardinals getting into an opponent's bullpen early as compared to the opponent getting into theirs early. Now you set up Sonny Gray tomorrow against Quinn Priester with a chance to win the series outright. And I think that is a really, really good thing for the Cardinals with all their successes at Busch Stadium this year.
Yeah, but it's just always so hard to win games against the Brewers because every year it's just you never know what to expect when you see these names. And then sure as hell, you're looking at Priester. What was Patrick coming into the game? Like a 2.25 ERA. Priester's at a sub-2 ERA. And we know what Jose Quintana can do when he's locked in as well. So, I mean, just damn, these Brewers just always push out this pitching. It's so annoying. But like you said now, you're in the driver's seat. You have Sonny Gray, much like Matthew Liberatore. He's been lights out this season. So is Eric Fetty. We keep talking about him because he's got that cheap contract. And if you're in the mindset of already wanting to know what the Cardinals are going to do come the trade deadline, Fetty's performance has been first and foremost in your mind. So I'm feeling good about this series. And like you said, considering it's a quick turnaround and you got to go now on the road against the Reds, a tough division rival right out of the gate. Yeah, this is a big game for the Cardinals in all the things we talked about. The starting the series, a 1-run win, getting another one from Matthew Liberatore. It's quiet. No one's going to talk about a win on April 25th in August. But this is a big win for a lot of reasons.
Right, I agree. I agree with you. And when you look at how the Cardinals performed against the Brewers through the first 6 games of the season last year, 6 matchups between these two teams, they're already off to a better start. The Brewers won the first 6 matchups against the Cardinals in 2024. So the Cardinals are putting their best foot forward. And when you get to 5 games below 500, you think about stacking wins. Yes, would you love to see the Cardinals sweep this series? Of course. But starting to chip away record-wise and getting closer and closer to that 500 mark, you need to start winning series, taking 2 out of 3, taking 3 out of 4, instead of, losing 2 out of 3 or losing 3, right? And I think the Cardinals are off to a good start here with that first game win. Now you have 2 games to win 1, and maybe if you win tomorrow, you think about that series sweep on Sunday, then you're 2 games below 500, and then back out on the road with a chance to really get back to a comfortable position.
To your point, Stefan, last season, do you know how many months the Cardinals were more than 2 games above 500?
I'm going to take a guess and say it was just the month of September.
It was 2. September was 1. They were 4 games above 500 in September, 4 games above 500 in June, and everything else was either at 500, just below, or 1 game. So to your point, if you look at their schedule too, there was no 12 game winning streak that pushed a fairly mediocre team last year across that 500 mark. It was 6 here, 4 here, 5 here, 4 here, and you don't need it to have one dominant month. You just got to be able to hold serve for the most part. And like you were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, which is you keep playing like this at home, things are going to even out. You don't need to play it away, and maybe you're just going to be a different team than last year when you were honestly, kind of crazy balanced at home and away. So, there's, a lot of different ways to skin a cat if you want to get, medieval with it.
Right. And I don't think that the Cardinals have the luxury of being able to play 500 ball if they want to make the postseason this year. The wild card is going to be too stacked in the National League with the Diamondbacks, the Padres.
Where's your mindset on this Cardinals season, Stefan? Are you open-minded about what happens at this early in the season? Are you already? I'm playing for 2027. I'm planning to be a playoff team that's legitimate in 2027. We got to start looking at how do they sell Fetty, let's keep handling Halsey with bubble wrap so that we can get the best that we can for him in July. That's where I'm at, because I'm a pessimist who wants to look at the long arc, if anything. Where are you at in the expectations for the Cardinals this season?
I think that the Cardinals are just exciting enough to really surprise some people. I think last year being 4 games above 500 with all their offensive woes, with their starting struggles, this team really, really confused some people last year. How did they finish above? I think on paper, you look around and you say, okay, the starting pitching's been better. The bullpen has been worse, but the offense has been better. So I don't know. You take the good with the bad. They got off to a tough start, and they faced some tough teams. But maybe over the next few months, this team can be 7, 8, 9 games above 500 once the season ends, and they might sneak their way into a wild card spot. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm not willing to give up on them yet. And this is a really, really interesting question. This is why, for the life of me, I don't know why or how McGreevy is not here. We've talked about this a lot on this show. Michael McGreevy certainly earned his stripes in spring training because he outpitched a couple of the other guys. But look around. Who has pitched so poorly? And we talked about it the other day with Miles Michaelis. Who has pitched so poorly outside of that Boston game or outside of maybe one outing that Michael McGreevy is deserving to be in over, in terms of who you're paying money to, in terms of who has major league experience? I'm not saying Michael McGreevy won't be here, but I think the starters by and large have done a really nice job.
I think if you gamed it out, a lot of people would say that there's a combination of things. One, Jojo Romero has been struggling since Bernie this morning phrased it as June of last year. And I think the numbers would bear him out to at least to that. So Jojo hasn't been great. So you need a lefty. And again, that'd be a radical switch considering how important Jojo was for the most part to the bullpen, the previous year and a half plus. So it would be radical. But if you're just going by strict numbers and also factoring in, which I think needs to be factored in, a combination of either runway for young players or important innings for tradable assets. When you factor in those kind of things, I think people want to see Steven Matz, and we have it in the chat right now, which is people want to see Steven Matz become the lefty again, with McGreevy taking over the Steven Matz spot starter swingman role. Now, I will say one big thing with that is that I don't want the Cardinals to keep swinging young starters. I like that they've decided either you're a starter up in the majors or you're a starter in the minors because you're not a starter yet in the majors. What they did to Zach Thompson has, in fairness, scarred me for the idea of using young starting pitchers as swing relievers in the majors and then making them become starters again and then making them relievers. And then I just think it's snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. It's bad. And so that's my thing against that. But that's why people are throwing out that idea, Stefan, is because there is no good lefty in the bullpen. And so if you get rid of who you have right now, who are your lefties, that opens up Matz to become your lefty, and McGreevy takes over that spot, which
Right.
I don't think is going to happen, but I do see the logic behind it.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I think where Matz has been at his best is when he's eating innings, not necessarily as a setup man. But this is true, right? Even Matz deserves starts. Look at Matz's ERA in comparison to the other starters, in comparison to the other pitchers. He's a sub-2 ERA guy right now, and he has been pitching to contact. He's been pitching to strikeouts. He's stayed healthy, which is really the operative thing. And the taboo aspect of this that I don't think people are really talking about is Steven Matz is being paid a lot of money. He's being paid like a starter, and they're using him in sort of this multifaceted role. If we decide to move Matz into a middle relief role, well, you're paying him an exorbitant amount of money to do a job that is typically a job that doesn't come with the price tag that Steven Matz has. So I think that there are a lot of decisions that will be made. I think McGreevy is going to be a starter. I don't think there's much of a question about that. But it's a work in progress, and the Cardinals have the pieces to be successful.
Is there something to paying or playing a guy like Matz in the role that he would be on a team if you are looking to trade him to make that contract? Because I mean, $11 million, especially when you talk about trading him at the deadline, it's prorated for the other team, so they're only paying 5.5 or whatever the hell it would be. That's awfully. That's if a guy's pitching well, that's pocket change for a competitive team. But a competitive team's going to want him as a relief pitcher, like you said, eating up long relief innings. And so, is there something to? And you might not have this mindset. The Cardinals might not have this mindset. But is there something to Matz's role in the bullpen makes sense because that's what you're going to be trading him as, if that is your goal? And I truly believe it should be their goal.
Yeah, I think somebody brought up this point about J.J. Weatherholt and why they were still playing him at shortstop. And everything's about accruing trade value. Regardless of whether or not you're considering trading them, you want your players to accrue as much value externally as they have internally. And I think Steven Matz is one of those players that has proven he could be a starter. He could be a versatile reliever. And I don't think it's guaranteed that Steven Matz is going to be a reliever if he gets traded or that he will get traded at all. Look at a team like the Baltimore Orioles, for example. They have pretty much, I wouldn't say ruined their competitive window, but they were really, really good for the last 2 years. They don't have any starting pitching. They're relying on older veterans. I could see Steven Matz being a player that they have their eye on if they're, kind of being a little bit more aggressive and stacking up some wins in the AL East division and getting closer and closer to pushing for first or second place or an American League wildcard spot. I think Steven Matz is able to do what Steven Matz is able to do, and him wearing a variety of hats is only going to help his case and the Cardinals' case moving forward come middle of July when the trade deadline approaches. I think everybody is going to be taking a look at this Cardinals team and wondering, man, okay, are they going to be a 500 team that decides, all right, we're going to sell and let our young guys thrive? Or are they going to be a team that has historically said, we're going to hold on to our players and make a push? We're not a big rebuilding team. They've never once said that they're in a rebuild in this situation. It's been a refresh, retool. It's been a way to take a look at what you have throughout your system. But the Cardinals have not explicitly said that they're in a rebuild. And I think that with the mentality that they have some really, really attractive pieces to other teams, depending on how this thing goes.
With the expansion of Major League Baseball playoffs, we've seen a lot of the wild card teams go very late. But I still wonder about the mindset of that just get in mentality that we see in, let's say, hockey. Yes, right now, early on in this new format, the wild card teams are getting very far. If I had to bet money on it, I would bet that over the next 10, 20 years, that does not play out. And so with that thought process, my thoughts and why I brought up like 2027 earlier when I was is that does it matter if the Cardinals build a wild card level team this year? If it costs them the ability to build just a little bit better of a team in 2026. And that's my question is, I know we're talking about if they are above 500 and they're not a selling team, but let's say they project out to about 86 wins again, and let's say would again put them in September, 3 or 4 games out of that second wild card spot, so you want to contend. Yeah, I get the feeling that this is St. Louis and you have to contend, and Cardinal fans are going to demand that. But if we're just talking about the goal of this franchise, again, from Cardinals fans, is to win the World Series every year. You have to build a championship level roster. And the way to do that is to get the most darts to throw at the board. And moving guys like Steven Matz, who again, by July, that contract extremely tradable. Eric Fedde might have one of the most tradable starting pitcher contracts in the entire league at sub 10 million, and that's total. So it'll be less than 5 million on the market cash for a competitive team. He'd be great for the Orioles as well. And so I just wonder if it would be a mistake in how you see this thought process. If it would just be a mistake for the Cardinals to say, we're just over 500, let's stand pat and try to make the playoffs again this year. Because I think not trading Ron Helsley was a mistake last year, because I think it led to this season where the offers probably weren't good enough over the winter, because the offers are always better in July because teams are pinched and deadlines make deals. And so that's why again, it might be very negative to a lot of people, but every one of my thought process, and I know the Cardinals haven't said that, but they can't stop saying the word runway. And so I feel like the point of that is a longer arc development path. And part of that is, again, getting as many darts to throw at the board as possible. And so could be being negative, but I think this is the way you actually have to go about building a championship team. Your thoughts on that, Stefan?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it really is dependent on how Chaim Bloom wants to move things forward. And I think the track record in the past has been building through your farm system. You have some really valuable players in there, but your headliners right now are Quinn Matthews, Michael McGreevy, J.J. Weatherholt, Chase Davis, et cetera, et cetera. I think that there's, a happy medium between the two. The team was pretty open about wanting to trade Arenado this offseason. They didn't accomplish that goal. And I think that it has worked out for the team on the field this year, because Arenado has been a contributor offensively and defensively. But will he be an attractive candidate for other teams in the middle of the season? Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll have to do with the Cardinals' record come July. Historically, this team has never really wanted to rebuild. They've never had teams where they've had to make that hard decision and say, hey, we need to trade guys away in order to bolster our farm system. They have a new head of player development. They have a new philosophy in terms of how they're developing players. So it'll be interesting to see how they play this out. I certainly don't want to see them leveraging their future for success today if it means that there's long-term success moving forward if you're a Cardinals fan. I think that is on the horizon, though. This team right now has struggled against some of the blue bloods of the last 5 or 6 years. They struggled against the Mets. They struggled against the Braves. They struggled against the Red Sox. So maybe they're not quite ready to beat those teams, but if they can compete against the Brewers, who have sort of been the top dog in the NL Central, I think they're off to a really good start, and kind of gives you a barometer of where they are within their own division, because that's what the goal should be right now, is win the division, and then whatever happens afterwards is what happens afterwards.
See, and that's that. I understand that thought process, but it just, everyone tells me everyone told us how bad the NL Central is going into this year, and so does making the playoffs as the winner of the NL Central mean you're competing for the World Series?
No,
I don't know. I don't think it does necessarily.
Not necessarily. And I think another thing to factor in as well is that this is an attractive free agent destination in St. Louis, right? You had Paul Goldschmidt come over here. You had Nolan Arenado re-sign here. You had Sonny Gray choose to be here. This is a fan base. This is a culture that players want to be a part of. But that's fresh off of a winning culture, a team that had been in the postseason, had been dominant, had done things the right way. Not to suggest they haven't done things the right way, but they have certainly taken a few steps away from where they were back in the early 2020s, and definitely in the 2010s, and definitely in the 2000s. So as they start to get back to that, I think we're going to see a marriage between the player development side, pushing players through the farm system, and also getting some really good free agents. And that's how the teams that have been successful have continued to stay successful. Well, while we have a moment, Matthew, baseball season, is officially underway, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick Six. Think of DraftKings Pick Six as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick Six is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. You're going to want to download the DraftKings Pick Six app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play. $5, get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, Stefan, I have to check my Pick Six from this morning because we always do a Pick Six on the morning show. And so I took Matthew Liberatore to allow more than 4.5 hits, 5 hits, got that one. And then I took the Contreras brothers to each get 1.5 bases. Contreras got a double, so I got the 1.5 bases there. And I know the other Contreras, did he only get a single? Oh, I think he only got a single. Oh, so close. Oh, I think he only got a single. William Contreras. Dang, costs me my Pick Six. Oh, well, jump on the Pick Six app and put in your play for the Cardinals tomorrow. I'm going to roll probably with another play on the Contreras brothers because those guys just seem to hit when they play each other.
Yeah, there's definitely no love lost between the two of them, and I'm sure there's plenty of love gained because, they are brothers. But this was a great win for the Cardinals, a 3-2 win. You'd like to see them really belting out a lot more runs. I was impressed with Nolan Gorman's sacrifice fly. I was impressed with Pop Warner's comfort level in sending Brendan Donovan on that. I think there had been moments this season where they'd been really timid about sending from third, and he's done a nice job being aggressive with this team because, runs have been difficult to come by, and that was really what started the offense for the Cardinals in this game.
Did you have an issue with was it sending Wilson? What would that have been in the? Gosh, would that have been the 5th inning?
Yeah, Donovan's single.
Yeah. Did you like that call on the third base side?
I didn't mind it. And here's the thing: is it was a bang play. Wilson was standing up to the inside of home plate, to the top part of the plate. Mm-hmm. If he slides, maybe he's in there safely. I don't think it was a bad send necessarily. You're looking as a Cardinals fan and you're looking as Cardinals personnel, hey, we've lost a lot of close games. Every single run we score is beneficial to us. It's beneficial to this bullpen that has really struggled to keep the runs from scoring late. So I don't mind that send at all. And I think Pop Warner, he's a legend. He knows exactly what he's doing. But it was good to see the Cardinals pull out a win. I think this is going to be a really fun weekend. Tomorrow it's going to be Sonny Gray up against Quinn Priester. Gray is 3-0 in his campaign in 2025. Priester 1-0, 1.93 ERA, but Priester has yet to go more than 5 innings, and that's important because tonight the Cardinals got Chad Patrick out of the game after 4 1/3, got into that bullpen. They can get Priester out of the game early and continue to get into that bullpen. They're going to be taxed come Sunday. So let's say the Cardinals win tomorrow and face a really, really depleted bullpen on Sunday. You have a chance for the sweep. And then everybody's feeling good heading off to a road trip for St. Louis.
Yeah, just going through Priester's, he's only pitched a game high of 84 pitches this season. So, yeah, if they can get to him deep, that would be interesting. One thing, though, I do think is that I don't want, one microcosm of the Cardinals getting better at not striking out is that I think they've gotten worse at, working counts because they've just been a lot more aggressive. And so they don't work guys as deep as they usually can. So getting him into that 80 count by the 4th inning, that'll be crucial. But again, I'll take the pass off is that usually most games the Cardinals don't strike out very often. Again, tonight only 4 strikeouts, which helped putting the ball in play and getting a couple like the sacrifice hit from Gorman and things like that. Those were useful little plays to put the Cardinals across today.
Yeah, they certainly seem to be like Dorothy in Oz, tapping together the ruby slippers. There's no place like home.
I mean, just a lot of little plays. I mean, Arenado, how about the play at home late in the game in the 8th? That saves the game. We might not. They're still playing potentially right now if Arenado doesn't make that play.
Right, and his defensive ability is worth its weight in gold. Even when he's slumping a little bit at the plate, not to suggest that he is right now. What he provides at the hot corner is a premium. It's better than just about any other defender in Major League Baseball at that position. I want to see what Swanson can do. He has been on this roster for a while and hasn't pitched once. Well, he has pitched once. He did make his Major League debut. Show me if a young man could catch fire. I agree that Swanson is the right guy to turn to at one point. This is a very, very good point. However, you see a lot of managers in baseball with young pitchers not wanting to put them in too shaky of situations because you don't want to ruin their confidence. At some point, I think you got to baptize him by fire and see what Swanson can do. Excuse me. I saw him a lot in Springfield at AA, and he was tremendous as their closer. So I think he certainly has the ability to pitch late in games, in close games, but that will put the pressure on the offense for the Cardinals to give the bullpen a game or two where maybe you're up by 5 and they can afford to make a few mistakes. They haven't had that over the last few weeks.
Yeah, tomorrow or any game this series, getting a big boost from the offense so you can have some kind of game where you're comfortable, where you're 5 up and you don't have to worry about it. You can get Swanson in there. You can give Maton and Leahy a very much needed day off. Tomorrow's going to be very interesting to see what's coming out of the bullpen for the Cardinals again, considering they used Leahy, Maton, and Helsley. They've had to be a little bit more careful with Maton's pitching. I wonder, it's probably going to be another – I would probably guess we won't see him go back-to-back for another 3 or 4 games based on how they've been using him. So he won't be available. To Brendan Schaefer's point, Kyle Leahy is everyday he at this point. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see tomorrow if it's a close game, exactly how Marmol works that in there. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Riley O'Brien if the game is a little bit closer than Swanson, which would disappoint me, but again, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, tomorrow for me feels almost like we're going to see Sonny Gray go really deep, and not just 6 innings, maybe not just 7 innings, but you might see him go even deeper than that. And he's been really good at home. That game against the Angels where he was going into the 7th and gave up the 4 runs in the 7th or the 8th. He has the ability to go deep into games, and I can't think of a more important game for the Cardinals in terms of starting to stack wins than tomorrow to really give that bullpen an extra day of rest so that you have all your options available to potentially sweep this Brewers team.
Yeah, that'll be big. You need Sonny Gray. I mean, he's been your number one. He's been your horse this year, and as long as he continues doing that, it completely changes the setup of the starting 5, and I know we're starting 6, however it's going to be, and I know that's the overall output of those guys has been so crucial this season, but having that number 1 guy, that series stopper, the series starter in a lot of ways, that's been crucial, and Sonny Gray stepping up this season has been huge, and it's been 4 great starts, and hopefully number 5, I guess this will be number 6, for Gray will be just as good as the other ones have been, because him locking into that borderline Cy Young level, it makes the Cardinals a different team. And that's honestly something that if he locks into that across May and June, everything I said in those middle 20 minutes about them not being able to be competitive this year to a World Series level, it doesn't completely shift, but it sure as hell changes a little bit. And so him continuing to do this through this next 2 months, it holds a lot of the expectations for the Cardinals in its hands.
I think one thing that's evident is these starters are giving you a chance to win every single game. It's now up to the offense to find a way to give themselves a chance to win every game. And tonight they did enough. 3-2 win against the Brewers in game 1 of the series, snapping a really cold spell for the Cardinals. Now let's see if they can build on it tomorrow. 1:15 Central Time, Sonny Gray versus Quinn Priester, the Cardinals and the Brewers. Cardinals look for an outright series win. Matthew, any final thoughts?
Yes, one thing I wanted to throw out there, my last note from today's game, Victor Scott, the second. I don't care about the numbers right now. When he's on base, it seems like he's got the green light every time, and that's fun. I am as it dipped in analytics and stats as the next guy. I read Moneyball at too young of an age. It was impressionable on me, and it's changed how I look at baseball. And so I've never liked stealing. I pay you to get on first base, not get thrown out at second. And I'm a convert to the Church of Vince Coleman. And my personal priest is Victor Scott II, because every time he's on first, I want to see him run. Last year, the Cardinals' leader in stolen bases throughout the entire season was Michael Ciani with 20. Already through the 1/6 mark of the season, Victor Scott already has 8. I'm down for Victor Scott running every time he's on first base. And right now, as it stands, he's hitting 275, so he's on first base a pretty good amount of times. I love every second of it. Give me more Victor Scott II stealing bases. I can't wait till we get more healthy Mason Wynn, because he does not have a stolen base yet this season, and I know that that's going to change. I'm down for this speed. I'm down for running. I'm down for wasting some signals to have some fun.
And when
I mean that only in a baseball way, not in a other potentially East Side way.
Yeah, that's going to get clipped. Well,
I didn't mean to.
As soon as Ivan Herrera gets back, look out. He's thinking about being sent out on a rehab assignment within the next week or so. So once Herrera comes back and starts to stabilize this middle of the order, the Cardinals could be a completely different team and get back to where they were at the beginning of the year offensively. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us, or for really putting this show up and letting me join you, might be the better way of putting it. For Matthew Rocchio, I'm Stefan Caray. This has been the Cards Hub post-game show here on Sports Hub STL, brought to you by Hot Shots, and of course all content provided by DraftKings. Cardinals win tonight 3-2. We will see you tomorrow ahead of Game 2, where the Cardinals look to win the series outright.